Okay, guys. So I want to introduce my little pony OC. It's an alicorn, which means that he's a unicorn and a Pegasus, and he's actually supposed to be like a Time Lord, and he controls time and space or whatever. And his name is Donut Steel, and he's red and black, and his parents are dead, but he's got a very edgy backstory. But it's not edgy. It's just very dark and brooding. Let me see your OCs, guys.
Oh, that sounds so boring. It's nothing like my original character for Naruto, Gun Blaster Joe, whose right arm is a 55-inch caliber cannon that can blow the planet up.
That's super cool.
Who's that other guy? Who are you?
What do you got?
I am the famous AC comic superhero, Darkwing. My age is 22 caliber. I live on the edge. I murdered my own parents, and I live in a crevice. And I got a butler man named Pennyfred Aluminumworth, and I fight this evil clown.
Did you just say that your age is 22 caliber?
My age is 22 caliber.
Yeah, I don't understand why we're getting hate on Tumblr about our OCs. I think we're all pretty cool.
What in the? Oh my God! They made original characters. Ah!
Are they dead? Are they gone?
Oh my God! Oh, thank God they're dead.
Did we save the world?
Oh God! Who are these people? How did they get in here?
Why do they keep coming? We need to put like a lock on this place.
Sergio, did you lock the window last night when I told you to lock it?
No, who locks their windows?
Okay, I'll get it tonight. What? Oh my God, they started recording again! Fuck. Episode titled original characters, boys. We're gonna talk about original characters.
Yeah, the most original. So first, we're gonna start with what is an orange carrot. The carrot is orange, which is just as an original name as what a OC is. It is an original character. It is your own character that you have created. Technically, an OC, like if you write your own book, that could technically be considered to be an OC, or it's an OC you've made for an existing fictional universe. It's like fan fiction encapsulated in a man or a woman or whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, I think the what was that?
I was about to say, yeah, it's just a character that people make for a fictional universe, established or not.
Yeah, and I'd say it's technically accurate to say that characters such as Aang and Katara from Avatar are original characters, but I think you draw the line at the point where it's an officially licensed, reputable thing that's being published. Yeah. Before that, it's just original characters, original content. Not to be confused with the original content tag on Reddit. Fucking Redditors.
Redditors, am I right?
Yeah.
And I think the fine line is, again, it has to be licensed. I feel like if it's made for if it's made for a licensed, big budget production, or maybe it's an indie production, whatever it may be, if it is being put into production to be put on to some kind of media that people can consume in some way, whether it be writing, animation, movies, live action, that sort of thing, as long as it is connected to a way that multiple people can digest it, then I would consider it to not be an original character. An original character would be someone else who is not part of the production team creating a character to exist in said fictional world, or for their own fictional world that they created. There are I would say what I'm sure there's a page on TV Tropes for, but I guess we could consider that there are ascended OCs that are like this is my Marvel OC and I work at Marvel and I'm like, hey John Marvel, I've got this character.
she's like a Muslim girl that can stretch her arms really wide, and they're like, boom, yeah, we're making a TV show about it. Then it's been ascended. It's no longer your OC.
Yeah, so TV tropes list an original character in the simplest terms as a new character created in a fanfic or other work that does not come from an existing copyright work.
Technically, it doesn't have to be from a literary work of your own creation or not. You can just create characters from the ether, if you would like, which
You
hear
can.
is a great way of getting around using named characters for porn. I can't verify that. There's no data to gather for that in a statistical manner, but
No,
does
it's
it happen?
true.
Oh.
Yeah, I did it.
Oh.
Yeah, people do it all the time. It's fine. It's just something that people do, whether it be through adoptables or what have you. There is definitely a market to skirt around copyright by just making an original character who just may or may not be sort of similar to another existing character.
Nice. What kinds of original characters are there, though?
So besides the mention of the ascended OC, we've come into three categories. There are generic OCs, which is just like your regular old original character. A good example of this is Sora, Kairi, and Riku. A bad example of this is Sora, Angel, and Riku, or should I say, Hero of Light. Oh wait! No, spoilers for next episode. You'll get that late. You'll get that later. But for the real Sora, Kairi, and Riku, while they are licensed characters, they are basically OCs that have been inserted into like a
big
mishmash
Disney
crossover universe.
Yeah. That's it. It's the most widely understood characters that I could think of to describe what a generic OC is.
They're
But,
just
yeah.
they're characters meant to inhabit their own like obviously that there's like a Kingdom Hearts lore that they exist in, and they're not just like Sora is now a character from Tarzan. He's your own character that's now interacting with all these different properties, like a fan fiction character in a crossover fan fiction would.
Yeah.
Yep.
The basic idea of an OC that's generic is to just coexist in the world. That's the goal.
Now the second type, which I'm going to put like an asterisk, is not necessarily a bad thing, depending how they're written. They're usually written really poorly. This is the self-insert OC. This is where you insert you or someone else you know as the OC. And a very bad example is Ebony, Darkness, Dementia, Ravenway. From My Immortal.
Perhaps the most well-known self-insert.
The problem with self-insert is usually that the person has self-inserted themselves into the work to basically live out their own power fantasy, which leads us into our third option is Mary Sue.
Or Gary Stu, depending on
or
who
Gary
it is.
Stu, depending on your gender.
Yeah, Mary
the best
Stu
example,
is the widely used one.
The best example I can think of is Alice from the Resident Evil movies, or I've heard depending on who's writing them, Batman or Superman. Especially if you've ever read Grant Morrison Batman, which is C-Flash. What you didn't know is I put a stick of gum on the floor over there, and you've stepped on it. It's currently sapping away all your speed.
Yeah,
it's
dumb shit like that.
I wouldn't say it's a character, because most people typically say that a Mary Sue is a character who has no flaws. But I think the better definition is that a Mary Sue is a character who warps the world around them to display their perfection.
Yeah. See, there's the original. Because I'm going to talk about the reasons why this is bad. Because the reason why we have the term Mary Sue is that someone wrote a Star Trek fanfiction a long time ago when you'd write like fanfics for a magazine, and their character was Mary Sue. And if you look at Mary Sue and what she does, she's the archetypical like Mary Sue, which I'll get into. But first, I wanted to talk, since I brought up the Batman example, there's this really funny thing I want to tell you guys about. So in the New 52 Batman run, there's an arc called Endgame where Joker has basically Joker has got Joker gassed the whole city and he's turned everyone against Batman, right? And at the beginning of the story, Joker has somehow Joker gassed the Justice League and they come running after Batman. And normally you'd be like, oh shit, that's the entire Justice League. How's Batman gonna get out of this one? He defeats them all in like 5 pages and then ties them up in the corner and goes, good thing that minor inconvenience is over with.
Yeah,
Let's
which
get
is
on
really
to the
dumb.
real story.
Yeah, it's you have to be very careful with original characters before they slip into Mary Sue. I consider when you slip into Mary Sue is when a character has over centralized the entire like plot. For example, like a character whose narrative focus warps around the universe. I don't think people would agree with me on this one, but I would consider Steven Universe, at least prior to Future, to be a Gary Stu because he is so involuntarily perfect and everything just kind of lands in his lap just to find a way to continue his kind of cycle of how he would solve problems.
Yeah,
Like,
I think at the minimum he's skirting the line very much. It's
yeah, he's very close to it because it comes to a point where the only way that they logically thought that the issues of like the diamonds and the like the crystal gems would be solved is for Steven to somehow be related to a diamond. And that whole ordeal, whether you agree with it or not, I personally just didn't find it to be good storytelling. And it felt more like a Deus Ex Machina than anything. And it is something that if you're paying attention to it, you could draw that line where you could say it, but he's also like skirting the line where he might not actually be a Mary Sue. But it's a whole perspective thing, and that's where Mary Sue's kind of end up falling in as a perspective thing.
yeah, and I have
Yeah,
more to say on
so-
that topic, but we'll get into it a little bit later with the do's and don'ts. What were
Yeah,
you gonna say,
I
Serge?
would just. I was gonna say because I had my example of Alice, and I guess like the original Mary Sue is that Mary Sue's, in my mind, obviously there's the absolutely overpowered. There's no explanation for their abilities or skills. Like in the case of the new Mary Sue, the original Mary Sue, there's this test in the Star Trek universe called like the Kobayashi Maru test. Kirk cheats on it to become captain of the Enterprise. If you've seen the first J.J. Abrams Star Trek movie, if you watch the original series, Mary Sue actually completes it without cheating, and then she does the second thing, which is she pushes the other characters aside and basically takes credit for all of their achievements. Like in the second, as Matt saw the second Resident Evil movie with me, there are plenty of scenes in the second Resident Evil movie where Jill, a character from the games, is going to do something cool, but then Alice, the OC, comes in and just shows her up and just does it all for her.
Yeah, does it
and of
even
course the movie
cooler,
center,
does it even better.
and of course the movies all represent around Alice, who's basically like the Messiah. She's a super soldier. She's got superpowers. Her blood can cure the T virus. Oh yeah, and all the characters have no problems with Mary Sue, Alice, Batman, Superman. They have no problems with them. Characters will fall head over heels with them for no reason. People won't question their actions. This is like the Mary Sue. You know what to do. You're the best of all time.
Well, that's not entirely true. The mark of a Mary Sue is not that nobody questions them. It's that if you do, you are the bad guy. You cannot question them without immediately being turned upon by the rest of the characters, or the narrative itself paints you as the bad guy for just questioning the Mary Sue.
It is. It usually comes in the form of, it might not make you the villain. It might just seem that your idea is the bad idea.
Yeah, and I like the way that Michael's been describing a Mary Sue. It's not badness that describes a Mary Sue, it's the level of warping of the fiction's reality for this one character, specifically one person. This is why
because
you can especially notice it like if you were to take like an Avatar fan fiction or something like an OC, you can especially notice it if they have like more than 2 elements to bend. Like that's obviously something that breaks the rules of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
But they might not necessarily break the rules. They might just bend them enough to like. It'd be like if you were to like bend like a paperclip. There's like it's a usable paperclip, and then there's like okay, it probably is gonna break soon. Paperclip broken. You know?
Yeah. Yep. What were you gonna say, Serge?
I guess I talk about later, but you can write good, overpowered characters. Obviously, One Punch Man is a good
That's
example of this.
Perfect example of it.
Yeah, overpowered characters, they can be fun. You just have to write them in a way that works with them.
Yeah, you have to write them as people.
Or one of my favorite overpowered characters of all time, Kamen Rider Decade, is because there's still stakes in the show because obviously he can still lose, but you know he's about to absolutely ass blast the monster when his theme starts playing, and him showing up in crossover stuff is great because he just comes up and completely steals the show from everybody, and it's done in a way that's not like it's like you know him, he's been in the series for like 10 years, so when he comes up it just absolutely kicks ass. It's deserved rather than like, oh look at me, I'm Captain Marvel, I'm the strongest ever, just let me blow up Thanos' ship for you guys.
Yeah, I think that there's like 2 good ways to. I mean, we can talk about it like later, but I'll talk about what like how you can write an overpowered character like well.
Yeah. But boys, what is it specifically that we like about OCs in general, or maybe self-inserts or generics?
I would say what makes a good OC is just what makes a good character in general. Like I just like making a well-written character that adds to the lore, the universe that you put them in, or you know, if you're writing your own original story, then you know, obviously I like a good written character. Like character good, I'm bound to like them.
Yeah,
right.
I like the 3 points that you put here. I think they're all really good points for like making a character, and these are like the questions I think that writers should be considering when at least making like a named character. You know, someone that maybe it's a side character, maybe it's a main character, or just a major reoccurring character. And those are, of course, brings a new perspective into the world, expands on the lore, like you said, Sergio. And the last one is can put characters from the fiction into new situations.
Yeah, I can't think of any super great examples of that specifically, but I've always felt when you're creating an original character, the last thing you want to do is actually create the original character with no purpose. You want the original character to be put into the story because you need that extra tool to mess around with the narrative.
I think a good example actually for the for the can put characters from the fiction into new situations would actually be the Guardians of the Galaxy, because they opened up the world of possibilities to travel through space for the rest of the grounded Earth Marvel characters.
Mm-hmm.
Like, sure, we have Thor who can use the Bifrost and what have you, but there's no like real way to travel through space. You can travel to the 9 realms, but you can't travel through space with the Bifrost, to my knowledge.
Yeah, Thor would have a hard time getting to Mars or Jupiter or shit like that.
I might be wrong. He might be able to do that. It's just that the Guardians of the Galaxy created a more like comprehensive tool and a new interesting option, because not only does it put them into new situations by allowing them to go into space, but also puts them into a new inherent risk because they're now out in space and you don't know what's out there.
Yep. And then self-inserts, man, some of the funniest shit I've ever read was a self-insert of somebody just making a complete comedy crack fic about oh, god damn it, I can't remember what show it was, but why can't I remember it? Whatever. What do you guys have to say about what good things do you have to say about self-inserts?
I think because it's been done before where a creator will put themselves into their own work.
Andrew Hussey from
yes.
Homestuck.
Yeah, there's the CEO of Square Enix is a boss in Nier Automata and Final Fantasy 15.
I mean,
I also think creator self-inserts can go wrong. Like the one Powerpuff Girl writer
Oh,
self-inserting himself.
Yeah.
yeah, there's I think there's some good examples of a self-insert that's like done well, and that is of course used for comedy because they might be the character who questions what the hell is going on half the time because it could just be the writer's perspective now put into a character who is in this really weird situation, allowing for good comedic timing and what have you. However, as somebody who has watched the entirety of a Steven Universe fan show where the main character was a self-insert, was a power fantasy, you can go horribly wrong if you just make it a fantasy, if you don't add character to the characters that you are, doing. Like if you make a self-insert and it's just, a generic blank slate of a character, you don't really have a lot to go through. But if you add a little bit more personality to them, maybe it's not fully connected to you. It might just be a little, like, a good chunk of you. Then you can actually work that into making an interesting character who might not really seem as a self-insert to people who are actually reading the media.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I think self-inserts are really pushing the boundary, towing the line of using real-world people in your fiction, that's just a bad idea in general. You don't want to do that unless you have a really, really good reason to do it. Just in general, don't put real people in your fan fictions. That's a really
without their permission.
Yeah, without their permission. Other stuff. Don't
Especially
do
if your
it.
name is Harry Styles.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Sebastian.
Yeah.
And
Nothing.
there's
Good. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna move on to the Mary Sue.
No.
We also have written Rey Star War and all the Jedi trademark, and that's all you need to.
That's all we have to
I
say.
mean-
That's all that needs said.
I mean, I will not defend Mary Sue's because I don't think that they're good.
Mhm.
They're not good for a story. I think you can. There's very, very, very tiny situations where a Mary Sue can work, and that is if you make them the villain and you purposely make it to where they are like the all bad evil guy,
If you
and everyone else
lampshade
is trying.
Yeah.
You want to make it would essentially be you are making the Mary Sue and the anti-Sue, which is like the exact opposite of a Mary Sue, to counteract that. And I think that's where like you can have it be interesting, but outside of that, there are situations where I don't think that it's interesting. And I know there are people who don't consider Rey from Rey Star Wars to be a Mary Sue. I'm in the group where I can see both sides, but I'm mainly focusing more towards the kind of too perfect side. And that's mainly an issue of just the movies being paced incorrectly.
Yeah. I'd say that she does toe the line a little bit. If she was actually the descendant of Luke Skywalker, yeah, that'd be pretty bad. She's just, the granddaughter of Palpatine. But
yeah, I've kind of preferred her being a nobody. It would have worked a lot more.
I mean, I did too, but obviously we know that nobody had a plan when writing this, so
but it's been confirmed. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, and people because they were trying to course correct from Last Jedi because Ryan Roundhead Johnson went and screwed everything up, and it was like, no, she's not a nobody. Nobody liked Last Jedi. She's
somebody.
Dartboard.
And then
Ray Palpatine.
Then J. Jonah Alabama had to come in and fix it at the 11th hour. It was bad.
He fixed it just about as Joss Whedon fixed Justice League.
Ouch. Shall we get into how to make one? How to cook up one of these OCs?
Yeah.
Yes. So let's start about why. So yeah, that's a good question before you do any. I'd say it's a good question before you do anything in life. Why? Why are you doing this? So, why does there need to be an OC? Like your OC should not, you shouldn't make Goku 2.
Yeah,
Your OC should slot into the world that exists, and if it can't, then you need to address that issue first.
yeah. If you wanted to make a youth who is a Saiyan and then grows up and gets power in Dragon Ball, why don't you just write a Gohan fan fiction instead of making your own character or things like that?
Yeah, there's situations where like there is universes that could work where you don't have to be connected to the main story. You can just exist in that universe, such as of course Steven Universe, My Little Pony, maybe Harry Potter, sort of like after the whole Dumbledore thing. Like there are situations where you don't have to be connected to the universe and you can tell your own story. But like if you are so dead set on writing a story about your original character, you have to make sure that what you're doing with the original character isn't something that another character has already done.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I agree. How about naming?
All right,
it?
so now we go on to the name. So naming I think is very important.
Mm-hmm.
Because if your character doesn't have a catchy name, then no one's going to remember them. So, at least what I have outlined here, I believe that heroic characters need to have cool, catchy names. You should kind of be able to tell what kind of character you're dealing with. If he's got a good like Peter Parker, Bruce Banner, Steve Rogers, Bruce Wayne, like you can go like alliteration is a good way to make it catchy. But like I don't know, like Steven Stone. Like it can sound kind of cool, but it should sound like
simple.
Like your character's name shouldn't be like Grimdark McBumblefuck.
Yeah, like
that's a bad guy.
Or Ebony Darkness Dementia Ravenway.
Dementia Ravenway.
I also am of the group that they should have cool catchy names, but they shouldn't have a very confusing how do I pronounce this name. Like you want to be able to make sure that people when they're talking about it can pronounce the names and not be confused when they look at it in text.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, or if they do have a long, confusing name, they should have like a nickname to call them by.
Yeah, something like
Connor from Assassin's Creed 3. He's got his long, unpronounceable Native American name, and then he's got his like English name.
Yeah, I have trouble pronouncing or like saying and remembering character names from anime. So when there's like short abbreviations like Deku and Kakchan, I immediately know who you're talking about because that's all I remember from actually watching the show or enjoying the show. But then there's also characters from like Dragon Ball who are perfect examples of just, like Vegeta, Goku, very quick rolls off the tongue names that you don't have to put too much time into.
Yeah. They don't distract you from the fiction when you're thinking about their names.
Mm-hmm.
How should they look? Should they be buff super demon boys? Should they be normal?
Yeah, so I'll get to appearance real quick because we kind of skipped over the other thing. Villains should also have smooth names, but they can also have obviously evil names, like Angron or Mortarion
Or Greg.
Johnny Evil Boy. Don't go with that one, but you get what I mean.
Yeah, I'm personally a big fan of doing villain names that have a meaning behind them. So I think they're because it's not like super important to the actual story, but just having that small bit of touch to it. And if somebody goes to look up their name, like I created an evil ferret man whose name is Ambrose, and the meaning of that is immortal because he's pretty much a god at this point, and the only thing that can stop him is the cold of space or anything that's like super, super cold. And that feeds into his ego as well.
I also jotted here that your comic relief character should have names like McLovin or Greg Chudley or like Doug.
Yeah, goofy, simple names that like kind of separate them a little bit from the crowd. Like you have Aang, Katara, Zuko, Toph, and then you have Sokka.
Sokka's been sucking a sudden dick.
If you want to like really, I mean, even a good example and like, another Western media example, Anna, Elsa, Kristoff, Olaf.
Yeah.
Goofy, small names tend to work pretty well for comic relief characters from what I've, looked at.
Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck.
Pinkie Pie. Yeah, Goofy.
Goofy.
All right, now for appearances, I think your main character's your appearance can tell a lot about a person, but in general, for your main character, your character's physique should naturally fit the character. So like if the character's like like an adventurer, like a Nathan Drake, Lara Croft type, then they should be at least somewhat like they shouldn't be like bodybuilder buff, but they got to have like that dancer, like gymnast, like kind of lean type of physique.
Yeah, they got to be physically fit.
Attractiveness just generally sells. Like obviously you can make like your character starts out and he's like he doesn't shower and he's all like disheveled, he's like
Yeah.
10 pounds overweight, but then he's like I gotta be a hero, and then he hits the gym and then he looks better. But like in general, I don't want to deal with smelly 11th grade weeb with a school shooter haircut and
just don't
odor
do that.
problems.
That's just good advice for designing characters in general. You don't have to make them super model attractive, but just don't make smelly people. Don't be a smelly person too.
I mean, you can have your ugly characters. It's just that they probably also shouldn't be the main characters, because at the end of the day, people are like generally people want to have either cute or physically attractive characters to be their main characters, because you're gonna see them the most of the time, and some people just are very picky about their appearances.
Yeah, agreed. What about the powers and abilities of the OC?
So you should always know what your character's strengths, skills, and abilities are, and you should also know their limits. As I've mentioned before, overpowered characters can be fun, entertaining, but they have to be done in a way that doesn't eliminate all stakes. Like they're super invincible, but they have the weakness where if they get hit once, they just die instantly. Like Hotline Miami.
Or
I think you also have to
Kryptonite.
keep in mind the whole rules of the universe too. Like if you're making one for an established fictional universe, you have to make sure that your character follows the rules that were already established in there. So like you can't be making like a Full Metal Alchemist OC and have them break the rules that are clearly established in the world of Full Metal Alchemist.
Unless the point of the character was to see what would happen if you could break those rules.
Yeah,
obviously,
I mean,
a lot of what we say you can circumvent around if you're clever enough with it. But
yeah, they're not rules; they're just guidelines.
The main point is, if you're gonna deviate enough from what we say, you should do it deliberately. You should do it with consideration. Don't just make a guy who can shit diamonds for your OC and then sells it on the black market.
And knowing what your character can do beforehand, and perhaps either hinting or laying it out on the table at the beginning, can prevent moments from like them going like, "Oh dang, we need to jump over this cliff." And it's like, well, did you know that I was a long jumper in high school? And they go, what? It's like, yep, I didn't tell you guys, but I'm really good at the long jump. And they pull out a pole and they vault over the crevice.
Yeah, especially this also goes for like powers and forms. Like, just don't drop forms without like maybe at least a little bit of foreshadowing. Like the best form transformation I've seen is the Super Saiyan transformation, because it's hinted at and foreshadowed that there is such thing as the Super Saiyan, even if it's a legend or a myth. But like there is this mystical power that Saiyans can get, and then we get to see that form transformation. Like a bad example would be, if you go back and listen to our Chain of Memories example, is giving a character like Sora just this random upgrade that just makes them a god.
Yeah. Fucking dumb.
Yeah, like I hate the Super Saiyan God thing. I think it's dumb. But at the end of the day, it's whatever.
At the end of the day, Toriyama wants money.
Yeah, and if they have to make a stupid explanation, sure.
Yeah.
There's definitely ways to get around it. I think the most interesting concept that I saw about the Super Saiyan God to like fix it was to make Goku have the red one. Like that's his transformation all the way through. Like even when he goes to SSGSS, it stays red because he inherited that power from God Ki, or for however he got it from that ritual. Whereas Vegeta trained with the gods, trained with God Ki, and then he gets the blue one because he trained to get that. I think having that work as a way to like kind of tweak the rules, or maybe make it more interesting, more intrinsic to the character, can help bring interesting ideas in, like the legendary Super Saiyan being green and whatever.
Lots of little things they could do like that.
Mhm.
But why does our
And-
original character get up in the morning, boys? Why does he get up and go to the fiction office?
Yes, so I believe this is more just like for you, like the writer, but you should just generally like flesh out who your character is, like what are their relationship with like the villains and the friends and the family and the world, how are they going to react to certain people, and this just generally having like a nice net or web of connections can really help you determine
Who's doing what? Who's doing who?
yep.
Things like that.
Yeah. The most important thing is to have like what I like to do is to get like a tree and like a relationship tree or maybe a motivation tree and show like who wants what, who who is the relationship with who. So for a character, maybe let's take for example Aang from Avatar, his relationship with Katara versus his relationship with Sokka, and his goals. Where do they line? Where do they, where do they deviate? Where do they intersect with maybe a villain's? The most important thing I can think of, especially if you want to make a character like a hero and a villain like come together, is to give them like the same goal but accomplishing it in different ways, some way that generates conflict and pretty much puts them onto a direct collision a direct collision course for the story.
This is completely unrelated. But don't have your character's motivation be that he went to high school with Daigo Dojima.
Dojima. No, that's a very important character motivation. Everyone went to high school with Daigo Dojima.
Shut the fuck up.
Like
Ugh.
I'm in my story, the main villain and the main hero are going to intersect at one point because the main hero is protecting what the main villain wants to destroy. Like simple stuff like that can also help create tension, or maybe it's protecting somebody or something, or going to rescue somebody or something. Ways that force the villains and the heroes to interact in some way, shape, or form generally creates good fiction.
Yeah. All right, we're going to have to speed this up a little bit because we don't have a whole lot of extra time left.
All right, so let's get on to the villains. So we'll start with like your main villain, your big bad. So your primary antagonist, he's got to be a badass motherfucker, or he's like an incredibly conniving schemer. Like he's either like a Thanos or he's like a Loki, where it's like, yeah, you could just like shoot him in the face and he'd be dead. But he's so super intelligent that he's thought of a way for that not to like for it just not be over. Like
Yeah.
you gotta your antagonist needs to be a credible threat, and you can't do things like discredit him. An X-Wing pilot shouldn't call him up on the comms and make yo mama jokes to him, and he's just absolutely falling apart at them. He shouldn't be shown up by other characters. Like if he has a fight with a subordinate, he should definitely win it. They shouldn't just wipe the floor with him. And he shouldn't be a whiny crybaby that throws temper tantrums.
I wonder who we're talking about.
I have no idea who I'm referring to. I'm just referring to generic OC man.
Okay. I thought it was specifically targeted to gingers, but whatever. I think
Gingers are whiny emo OC babies of legacy characters.
I think
And
the
why
best way
does-
to make a main villain, I think the best way to like make a main villain kind of intimidating and have that overwhelming power is to make sure that maybe it's, they have a leg up on some way, shape, or form on the protagonist, or maybe they are further along than the protagonist and they know something that the other one doesn't. So they have to be a force of reckoning outside of just power and intellect. They have to have something that the hero doesn't.
I would also caution something called the Worf effect or the Superman effect. So on Star Trek Next Generation, there was a Klingon, his name was Worf. Klingons are naturally stronger than humans, so he's like the strongest dude around, right? So when they'd have a villain and they'd be like, oh, how do we make him dangerous? Oh, let's have him beat up Worf. And then you'd be like, oh crap, he beat up Worf. He's super strong. But the problem is by doing this, you've made Worf look like a total chump. so the effect gets diminished. And the other meaning of it is during Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, they would commonly run into the Superman problem, where they'd be fighting like Harley Quinn or something, and they'd be like, "Oh crap, Superman would end this in like 2 seconds, so we got to come up with some dumb reason of why Superman either can't be there or he's incapacitated."
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But why does our villain
So
get out of bed in the morning?
Yeah, so motivation is really key for a villain. If you fuck up this, then you've kind of your whole story is going to be dragged down by it. You need to be able to understand why the villain is doing what he's doing. I don't mean like you're like, yeah, Thanos, you kill half the universe. I agree with that decision. You need to be able to understand where they are coming from.
Yeah.
You can you don't have to relate, but you can empathize.
You have to understand.
The best
Yes.
the best thing that I've been told to writing villains is that you should just think of the villain as the hero of their own story. Like, to them, they have to think that they are
Thanos.
the good. They have to think that they are the good person here, whether it be through like showing faults in society or trying to, stop all natural resources from being vanquished because of overpopulation, or maybe they just really, really want to do something that may seem kind of in the gray area. They have to. The best way to make a villain empathizable is to make them also written like a hero, but from the perspective of somebody who is looking at their actions in a morally gray way.
And as a quick aside, what was that, Serge?
I was just going to point out that you can also have a villain that like it's completely fine to have a main villain who's just like, I'm evil and I want to destroy things, but you should probably have a secondary villain who's got more motivations, so you can kind of focus on them, and then the main villain's just kind of like just a really cool dude for the protagonist to get into a final fight with.
Yeah, I used to say I used to agree exactly with what you said, Michael, but One Piece kind of changed my views on that a little bit. I don't think every villain has to be empathizable or sympathizable.
Oh, I don't think so either. I'm just saying that is one way to make them.
That's a pretty good way to do it, yeah. But the basic gist is, you just have to understand where the villain is coming from. You don't have to agree with them, but, say the villain's dad got murdered by a group of people, and so he's like, you know what, I'm just going to kill that group of people for the rest of my life. I'm going to be a dictator who does not give a fuck because I don't want to give a fuck. That's understandable. It's not moral. He's not trying to be the good guy, but you can understand that he doesn't really care if he's the good guy or the bad guy. He just does what he wants. But I do think it's good to have your villains have their own friends and their own personal relationships and connections to help them feel more fleshed out and human. Speaking of connections, what's a dragon? What's a secondary villain? What the fuck is that?
All right, so TV Tropes defines the dragon as like the Vader. This is the second in command. He's the big strong dude that the main villain sends to do all of his dirty work. They don't need to necessarily be like very fleshed out. Like Darth Vader wasn't like really fleshed out in like episode 4. He was just like this big scary dude. And like he can start off as like big scary dude, and then you learn later like they like you can play him either way. Like they got their own thing going on, like they got their own motivations, or they're just like scary dudes. And like you can do like, yeah, you're big bad, and they got like the evil 9, and one of them's name is Brick Killington, and he's just really big and strong. He's got like an exoskeleton, and he'll make a really cool fight for your heroes to fight. And his only motivation is like, I want to punch things, and like that's fine for like a character like that. Like the I listed earlier is what I call the bad villain tropes, and that's like the Marvel villains and Brody from Justice League, also known as Steppenwolf, but the first version was going to call him Brody, where like Marvel villains can devolve into like the 90s action movie villain, got like a big belt buckle, and they're like, we gotta weaponize X, like the Pym particles, the Iron Man technology, or like you get like your big scary demon mans that are made out of CGI, or the big scary mans, but they're in like regular special effects makeup. They're like, I'm evil and I want to destroy the world. Why? I don't know, because I like it. Like those types really don't really make good like main villains.
Yeah.
You could still build a pretty good story around like a villain like that. Like as long as like the journey like with the hero is good and you just really want to punch the guy in the face by the end, you can still tell a pretty compelling story, but that doesn't make them a good villain.
Yeah, you can usually overcome the tropes by giving them charisma and making the audience enjoy watching them, or enjoy I guess viewing them, rather than making them care about this villain. You can just have them be, oh, this villain was fun. Like, take away from the experience rather than the character.
Yeah. That it for dragons? Dragons a secondary villain?
Yeah.
All right. Mooks, not real people. Fucking kill them. But if you're gonna make them human, please don't just kill them en masse. Please don't do to the stormtroopers what the sequel trilogy did to the stormtroopers.
Don't do what the sequel trilogy did and was like, stormtroopers are slave children, they have feelings, and then Rey kills like 5 of them and laughs about it.
Yeah.
Or do what Sora and Riku did in Chain of Memories and just mass murder all those mooks.
I think Sora's the only one who mass murders people who definitely didn't deserve it. The heroes and whatever. Also, as an aside, don't give them a generic name like the Heroes or the Mooks. Give them something cool like the Chudleys.
The Chud. Yeah, having a just a kind of snappy name to them. Like, I think it's in DuckTales, it's the Beagle Boys. Like, just something kind of goofy, or maybe something a little bit more intimidating. Something that people will remember, like stormtroopers.
Now, bad OCs.
And then for...
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say were you about to get into the bad OCs?
Yes.
Yeah, so I was going to say for the bad OCs, we kind of talked about it, but basically, don't be bland, don't be boring, don't be just, walking exposition devices. Self-inserts often turn into cringe fiestas, as Matt wrote, and basically just kind of duplicity, where it's just the author really wants to bang goth Harry Styles.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I would count her as a self-insert like Avon, because I have read ahead. Like, she does have her own motivations and stuff. And she only.
I wasn't saying there's a self-insert in the fan fiction, but it's very clearly the desires of the author are seeping to the surface. I really want to bang Harry Styles. I understand. Could you stop reminding me every 5 paragraphs?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of wanting to bang Harry Styles in bad fan fictions, believe it or not. What's the funniest bad OC we've ever read?
That's a tough one.
I don't think anything in Sonic High School counts, because Sonic High School
Yagami?
Dark Yagami is a pretty good one.
Blade Randy?
Blade Randy, yeah, that's a good one. But he's just more of a boring self-insert. He is probably the most boring self-insert I've ever seen.
Ouch.
And I feel like
what about the greatest nickname?
Oh, nickname's pretty good too. But when I think of a really funny bad OC, my immediate thought is Blue Topaz from the Blue Gem Guardians, that Steven Universe fan show that I was talking about, because there were just points where for the first chunk of the series, Blue Topaz is in a relationship with Pearl from Steven Universe, and then suddenly he's no longer in a relationship with Pearl, and he's in a relationship with this new gem. I forget who he first dates. I think it's Capri. And then Capri just suddenly disappears, and now he's dating this new gem, Green Pearl. Then he's suddenly dating a new gem. And it's hilarious.
We should
because
watch that and review it. That sounds so fun.
Oh, trust I will bring it up, because there is an archive channel that is dedicated to his old content, and I'm friends with the creator. I think he is honestly one of the most sincerest people I've ever met, and I feel really bad for just being really mean to his series, because It was just kind of like whatever he wanted to do, and it wasn't hurting anybody, and I was just really mean about it. But like, if
Not
you
very
watch it and if you take away from the fact that this is like a fan work and you know the creator and all that stuff, and you just watch it for what it is, you get to a point where you realize that Blue Topaz is a power fantasy with no personality outside of being a power fantasy, and it's really funny.
See, this is so you think you can fanon, and we don't care about people's feelings.
If you
So,
write
yeah,
something
so, yeah,
bad,
if it's bad, we're gonna tell it like it is.
yeah, we are sorry if we come across as personally insulting. We don't know if you smell in real life. You might not, but sometimes your writing can stink. We don't like to ignore the stink of the writing at the very least.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes
So-
to poorly written children. Oh
God.
Yes, children.
God.
So the most common problem with children, I'm leaving it there. That's the quote. Most common problem with writing children, is that they make them into tiny adults. They give them very eloquent sentences. I think they need to straddle, like the line of like cringe with like baby speak, depending on how old they are.
I personally think that you can write them. It's just that they shouldn't have really long-winded sentences. They should have kind of, I would say, like a sentence or two of dialogue, and they should have this kind of innocent sounding to them, because kids are intrinsically innocent. They haven't really experienced all of life yet, and children also don't have a lot, like, I mean, they might have a lot to say on their mind, and they might just say it, but it's not going to be a long, elaborate thing. They usually repeat themselves over because they are trying to get their idea across.
Yeah, I think, ironically enough, the best way I've ever seen kids written is from Homestuck, because every kid has their own way of speaking. They always are consistently written, but they're still kids at the end of the day. Even Rose, who capitalizes her sentences properly and has perfect grammar, she's a kid. They're all kids at the end of the day, and they don't know what death is like for real. They don't understand how to use interpersonal conflicts or how to get through them. Kids are immature. They should not speak like they already know enough about a topic to get through it all the time.
They shouldn't be fine with murder.
Yeah.
That too.
I mean, maybe they can get over it. Like there's some Animorphs Tekken Tori where it's just like don't care, virgin. You're getting mauled.
Yeah. Also, as an aside, when you're writing stuff in general from a kid show, don't have them start cursing for no reason. My specific note here is don't have Aang from Avatar say the N-word. Just don't, please.
Yeah.
Cursing can be so distracting if you put it into the wrong series.
Especially for if it's a character who you wouldn't see swearing, like Aang. I would never see Aang swear in my life. I feel like the most he would say is like heck or stupid, and if he were to go any farther than that, he'd probably be like scoffed at by Katara. Like,
yeah, it'd be a serious breakdown of the character, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
finally,
now we should wrap things up with the don'ts. The number one is to stop being horny. This goes to men and women. We're putting you all on blast. So men, if your story isn't X-rated, they have to have these big honking badonga that they like drop down to the ground and don't are affected by like they're just
they're just
yeah,
these
don't have-
gigantic Titanic
don't have-
things.
Don't have her boobs be literally made in the Source engine, okay? Like, it's
she's got like her dump truck ass is like 7 dump trucks.
yeah.
Not saying you can't write like a beautiful girl and describe her as much, but if this isn't like X-ray, you shouldn't be all like.
She has these tiny booty shorts.
And then
don't do
women. Nobody will put you on blast, but here at So You Think You Can Fan and everyone's getting shot. So stop writing men like these like aloof, brooding douchebags that slap girls around and are like, beat me harder, Darius Styles, daddy.
Never do that ever again. I will personally slap you around and be a brooding douchebag if you ever do that again.
Yeah. And of course, these are hilarious generalizations, but oh my god, it's so fucking common.
Yeah, like they'll be like, he had his I walked into the room and I saw Edward. He had his button up all the way buttoned down, and he had these
Glistening
big abs,
washboard
and
I think it's
and his nipples were real hard, and his pants were slightly unbuttoned, and I was like,
I mean, you can be a little bit risque when it comes to romance and X-rated things, but like if you're trying to write a story that is, just like an action adventure story, maybe don't have the focus be on fan service, whether it be for male or female audience.
Mhm.
I don't need 6 paragraphs of just Harry Styles describing him to me.
I don't need 6 paragraphs of how this woman is so fucking gorgeous or whatever. Like, just I mean, I'm cool with having like a paragraph of somebody being like blown away by the beauty of another person, but when you make it more than one paragraph, and when you start getting more into detail about their features, it starts getting creepy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just clunky to read.
Yeah. Also, don't plagiarize people. Looking at you,
Mr. Freeney.
Mr. Freeney.
Mr. Freeney.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Take inspirations. Don't take plot lines. Don't take.
Yeah. You can homage and reference. Don't rip dialogue verbatim without a, You can have someone say everyone else like you can have like a character say like another character's line and like reference, but like the situation and the context shouldn't be like exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Deviant art. Don't use it as an inspiration. None of it.
Yeah.
No edgy
overly
characters.
edgy. Yeah, overly edgy characters aren't really interesting. They don't really do anything, and if any, like at the end of the day, if you're not making them a joke, people will make them a joke. That's what you have to keep in mind. Is if you make a character who is black and red, people are going to laugh at it, no matter who it is.
Unless it's a really cool design that you drew up and it actually looks professionally done, then people think it's cool.
No Cold Steel the Edgehogs. I wrote, don't copy designs for an existing character like your ex character, but you're blue and you have a gun.
Yeah. Hilarious physical descriptions. What's a good example of a hilarious physical description? Like a 10-inch
Buff
cock?
Riku.
6'20".
Buff Riku.
Don't do that.
6'20" and made of radiation.
Sexy because there's sex scenes.
Yeah, just don't get overly descriptive when if you're describing them in a written work. I'd say at most you can if you need to get overly descriptive, it would have to be on a very important feature, like a splash of freckles on their face, or maybe they have a scar that's a very weirdly shaped scar. Stuff that is, if you're over describing something, you have to make sure that it is important for that character, and it's not just look at their abs, look at their stunning abs. They could cheat, dude.
That's for the porn. But if you're writing a regular story, that's not that shouldn't be in there.
Yeah. If you're gonna write porn, though, go ahead. That's that's the point.
That's cool.
I don't think we have a whole lot else big to say. Yeah, no, we pretty much covered everything.
Yeah, the rest of the don'ts are just don't write bad characters.
I think one that I really want to bring up real quick is don't have the most interesting part of the character be in their backstory.
Agreed.
I feel like there should be something interesting there, but it shouldn't all be interesting because we are meeting this character in the present day. We have to know what's going on, what's going to change, what their arc is going to be like, if there is one. You have to make sure that this character has something that will actually continue in a story. Otherwise, you're just going to be stuck there with a character who doesn't really do much outside of just looks pretty.
Yep. And all the other stuff we said about everything. Normally, I would want to have a good little discussion part of the episode, but unfortunately, I do have to get going right now.
It's a shame. Maybe another
this
time.
was fun. Maybe we
always
could
like
have
doing these
a mini-sode at
discussions.
some point talking about it.
Yeah, we can just add it on afterwards. I mean, we have time.
True. All right. Goodbye, everybody. Don't make bad
Goodbye.
OCs.
I will break you.